Hello, my loves. Welcome back. Today we are talking about ritual in our luteal phase. So remember, the luteal phase has two parts to it. We're going to focus on the first part today. We'll focus on the second part tomorrow. And two other little reminders. You can win a digital copy of the book if you comment on the menstrual inflow ritual video. You just got to do a little scrolling on the old Facebook page here. Ritual, the difference between ritual and routine. And I just want to hit this one more time. Well, I'll do it again tomorrow, but routine, the mindless things that we do without thinking, that we just move forward and through and don't think about and don't really have any attention to it. Ritual, the exact same things, but with mindfulness and attention being paid to it. Therefore, far more advantageous for health, wellness, hormonal balance, kind of everything. So, ritual. So, we're talking about ritual through the different phases of the cycle, and we're talking about luteal right now. So, this is, again, that late summer phase of the cycle. So, we're beginning the descent, right? So, ovulation was summer, and now we're beginning that descent into the luteal phase. And it can actually be a good thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be great. So let's start off with sense number one, taste, where we're talking about a sweet and starchy. So that late summer phase of the cycle is the earth element, is the sweet and starchy flavor, okay? So we're moving into those sweet and starchy vegetables, and if you think about the time of the year this is, you're looking at those orange and yellow fruits and veggies. So, foods like pumpkin, which I want to tell you, there's more ways than pie to make pumpkin. You can stuff a pumpkin with like frickin' anything and it's delicious. I've done it with oatmeal, brown rice and veggies, sausage and cornbread and kale. I mean, really all sorts of crazy things. And actually on my website, I do have a blog post, 5 ways to stuff a pumpkin. So if you really want to get extra bonus points, you can go check that out. Squash, right? End of summer. So zucchinis and those summer squashes, but also moving into the winter squashes. So you're looking at like the zucchinis and the yellow squashes, but you're also looking at things like delicata and acorn squash and patty pan squashes and those kinds of things. Sweet root veggies, potatoes and carrots, for example. Again, sweet potatoes and carrots, orange, sweet, starchy, sweet and starchy. And then fruits, apples, dates, figs, proteins, almonds, beef, chickpeas, walnuts, turkey. So think about those kind of end of the summer foods. And of course, chocolate. I am not against taking away our chocolate. I will talk more about this in the deep luteal phase, but chocolate is delightful and there's nothing wrong with it. So good quality chocolate can really pack some much needed minerals, right? So not in the crappy stuff, but it's in the good stuff. You don't need as much as the good stuff to feel satisfied. So earthy cooking techniques, right? So we've talked about fire cooking and wood cooking, right? So now we're going to talk about earth cooking. Tomorrow we'll do metal. So earth cooking, mashing, roasting, stewing. So even if you don't change what you're eating, which, you know, I'm always advocating just adding in more things that are delicious to you, that are in these hormonal balancing foods, there are also fun ways of cooking it. So thinking in those terms. So we also have, of course, our sense of smell, and those are all, you know, good things to enjoy the smell of. And again, you can use your sense of smell brewing a cup of tea, having a bouquet of flowers, using an essential oil, a diffuser, steam, those kinds of things, scented candle. I have a whole list of ways that you can enjoy your sense of smell in the book. But this phase, lavender, chamomile, mint, and ylang-ylang are great to help reduce your body's stress response, and our luteal phase tends to increase our stress response. So these are really good ones for helping lower the stress response. I like to use some of them in a French press and pour it into my bath. So I'll take maybe a cup worth of the herbs into a French press and then boil the water and just let it really steep, because you're not worried about it being bitter. You're just evoking the scent. You can drink it, but the intent is to pour into a bath and really enjoy the scents and smells of it. I often do pour myself a cup as well. Touch movement, things like walking, especially if you're walking hand in hand, but walking is a good one. We're bringing things down a notch. So last phase, you were in ovulation, you were in those boot camp classes, and you were taking the advanced yoga classes, and now we're bringing it down a notch. So we're moving away from the hard class, but maybe it's just a matter of going, well, we were taking yoga 4, it was the hardest class. This week we're going to take yoga 3. So it's just about bringing it down a notch. You don't have to. If you still have the energy and you still want the challenge and it still feels good for you, carry on. But if you're starting to feel a bit of descent in energy, which many women do, the majority of women do, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. This is literally how we're built. You don't have to go do that same workout and try and beat your time this month or this week. You know, this is that phase where you're starting to come into that descent. So don't put a time challenge on your workout this time. Just see how it goes. That high progesterone coming down or the high progesterone staying high through this phase, but the rest of our hormones are decreasing, so your libido tends to decrease during this phase, which can also be a big part of this phase. And you don't have to eliminate orgasm. You can have a nice cuddle fest. You don't have to eliminate it. You can actually, orgasms can help ease your luteal symptoms, which can turn into PMS symptoms. So you actually can use orgasm to your advantage if you feel like it. And if you don't want to, if you just feel like having a snuggle cuddle fest with your favorite stuffed animal and a cup of tea and a movie, that's okay too. Your body, your choice. So whatever feels good to you. I will say, though, that if you do choose to go the libido route during this phase, just make sure that you're taking the time, because it's drier during this phase. That means your vaginal canal is more prone to ripping, which you want to just make sure that you've got lots of lube, which can be not necessarily coming from you because you're a lot drier during this phase. So you might want to really invest in quality lube, even if it's just for this phase of your cycle. Pilates, biking, low impact movement, those kinds of things. Dance in your living room. All of those things are good suggestions for this phase. Sense 4 and 5 are sight and sound. In the beginning of your luteal phase, you're going to want to wrap up things. So you probably will still be working. You'll probably still be looking at the computer, though you might find yourself wanting to shut down a bit earlier. But you're going to want to be wrapping things up a little bit more instinctually, so go with that. What have you been working on? It's time to finish it. Get it done. Wrap it up. You may also notice your hearing gets a little fatigued earlier, so you might want to turn the volume down a notch. You might want to transition from, heavy metal to, acid rock. But bring it down a notch. I joke in the book that we move from something into, I think, coffee shop music during this phase. So you're a woman. You don't have to commit to action movies all the time. You're allowed to change what you're interested in, what you want to consume. You're also allowed to skip screens altogether. Don't forget that. So then in spirit, we're going to talk about journaling for this phase. It's a really great time to answer what questions in your journal. So during this phase, do some journaling. I've actually got journal exercises for each phase of your cycle in the book, except for ovulation where you go do things. But think about questions that start with the word what. I've got a whole thing in the book on this, but this phase is your what phase, and you think about those kinds of questions like what's working, what's not working, what do you love, what do you hate, what do you want to see more of, what do you want to see less of, what do you want to increase. So ask yourself those what questions, and do it every month. And I'll tell you what, you'll be surprised at how quickly things start to change. It's really incredible. Living in flow really means living in alignment, and it just comes together in a really amazing way when you start doing this practice every month. Nurture your spirit in this phase. Nest in your house. Spend some time painting, coloring, creating. Now, everything you create has to go out into the world. Remember, the baby your body thinks might be happening in this phase wouldn't make its earthly debut for 9 more months. So create without judgment or stress. Just create. That's the point. So, all right, that's the luteal phase. I'll be back with the deep luteal phase next, and I hope to see you in there. As always, questions, comments are welcome on here. Feel free. And if you want to win the book, jump over to the Menstrual and Ritual post on my page and comment there. I'll be drawing at the end of the month. Mwah! I love you guys. See you in the next video.